This morning we will have Mr. Vesterbacka and Mr. Kustaa Valtonen giving us some tips and pointers on how to talk to investors. And well, that's an excellent topic for everybody who's looking for funding and having those sometimes difficult, sometimes pleasant and easy discussions with possible funders and possible investors, because of course that's something you need to practice, and that's something you need to be ready when you start doing it. And Mr. Valtonen and Vesterbacka are two very experienced investors themselves on here on giving these tips. So I think these will be very good and let's say a good insight from these two here this morning. And maybe we can start by just introducing shortly. And Mr. Valtonen is already here. So Kustaa, can you hear us well? Before I give you the floor completely, can you please just pitch yourself shortly for these people who are here in this morning copy session this morning?
Right, sure. Thanks, Mikko, and really happy to be here this morning. So my name is Kustaa Valtonen. I'm a professional business angel. Been doing that for the last 10 years, roughly. Spending a lot of time with startup companies, investing my own money, my own time into helping the companies. Some need a little bit more help than others. Some are very receptive and want the help, some don't. I kind of attend to all the needs on a kind of agreed basis. My background is in IT, so I know my way around technology pretty well. I like to consider that. So I've been working in HP for a long time. Back more than 20 years ago, started there, and then I was at Microsoft also for some years, and at both companies I've been working with some of the biggest customers they have in sales, service sales specifically. And the last for almost 5 years, we've been working with Peter on a mega project. So we do, we started the Helsinki-Tallinn Tunnel project, which is a very large infrastructure project, and it's been taking quite a bit of our time lately, but going good. It's kind of giving us the possibility to do kind of larger regional development as well. So the tunnel is for us like a platform, so more or less offers a chance to introduce new technologies and innovation into construction, underground construction, and all industries related. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. To get started.
Very good. And we also have Mr. Vesterbacka joining us here this morning, and little birds told me and sang to my ear that Peter has birthday today. So I would suggest that everybody here in this session, can you please type some kind of emoticon or some kind of birthday greeting for Peter in the chat, because it's a bit hard to sing online when we have like 70 people joining us here in this session. But congratulations and happy birthday, Peter. Can you hear us well?
Yeah, I can, and thank you. And happens every year, so no big deal. But yeah, anyway, but yeah, it's good to be here. So really good to see so many of you here online.
Many know you, Peter, already, but before also I give the floor to you and Kustaa. Just a short intro. What's your take on what's your background about this topic?
It's always like, where do I start? But I think that first of all, I've been kind of like entrepreneur pretty much like all my life. also while working for like bigger companies like HP, so met Kustaa there. So that's obviously like big corporation, but I would say that was pretty entrepreneurial, started like a bunch of stuff also, like when I was there, like this HP Bazaar program, that was like this ecosystem thing that we did, started already actually back in 1999. So, you know, that's like, you know, long time ago, like last century. But anyway, yeah, so I think that then, yeah, and some of the stuff that came out of there was like, you know, Rovio and met Ilkka and the Supercell guys there first time, like they also then got their like first company started back then. But yeah, then spent many years working with startups, in startups. Then Rovio, that kind of like got going out of this HP Bazaar activity. Then obviously Angry Birds happened, so then I was there full time for many years as the Mighty Eagle. Then left Rovio, and then been doing some small scale like angel investment. Know that scene, and of course been working with like the investors on the other side of the table, you know, raising funding for many startups, so been around, I guess, is like the short story.
Well, that's a good summary on that. And today we have around 70 people listening these tips from you guys on how to talk to investors, and we also have people from our matchmaking and accelerator program called Finest Love from Crazy Town, and these companies in particular are probably those ones who are doing these conversations with the investors. So without further ado, I'll give the floor to you, and people online, please keep those questions and comments during the presentation of Mr. Valtonen and Vesterbacka, so we can facilitate and brought those up also during this coffee session. But please, Kustaa and Peter, let's hear those tips and tricks.
Right. So, Peter, you wanna start, or should I go first?
You can go first. It's fine.
Yeah. So kind of the important things. Well, all the companies, all the startups, especially, they need funding at some point. So it's very important to kind of learn the dynamics of fundraising, and that's always when you encounter the investors, and sometimes they are kind of become a little bit mythic characters, and not always doing the things that you would like, or very difficult people to reach. But I think the important thing is to kind of keep in mind that the investors are people too, so they live their own lives, business lives, and busy lives. So sometimes it's not easy to get the attention of the investors. So when you actually do, the most important thing is to make sure that your own message about your business and your funding needs and whatever you're looking for is very clear, kind of very simplistic, to be honest, so that it's easy for the investor to pick up on the idea that you're trying to pitch and sell. And that kind of, I think, is the foundation. I personally look at probably 100+ cases every year. I get a lot of email and social media contacting and attending these type of programs every now and then, and trying to talk to the companies, and I personally take it always as a possibility to learn new things as well. So I try to learn new things from the companies, whether it's technological or innovation or something else, but it's a way to expand my knowledge. But please do make it easy for the investor to pick up on some of the elements, and the easier it is for me to kind of take whatever you're trying to tell or you want to accomplish something, the easier it is then, of course, to carry on the conversation and try to find a solution for your funding needs or whatever request that is. And that kind of there's a very big analogy to sales work. So I always make a reference with the investment rounds to being like sales cases, basically. So you're trying to sell an idea to somebody. So important to bring out kind of the best and whatever value there is in the idea. Then the other big thing that I would say 98% of the startups miss in their message to the investors is that when does the investor get their money back? So that one I would really like to see more in these funding pitches and requests coming. That not many companies actually bring out the kind of path to the revenue or path to the profits and the exit paths. And of course, it's not always that easy when you are raising your first or second round, but it's always good that you also think about these things. And potentially, hey, in 2-3 years' time or 5 years' time or whatever, you see the possibility that you will be able to pay back the money that the investors are putting into the company. Or the other scenario that you see that the company will be profitable and that you will be able to pay out dividends. So these are type of things that would be very good also to not maybe emphasize, but bring into the conversation at some point when you start to talk about the funding rounds. And it goes without saying, of course, that all the fundamentals need to be in place. So when you do the pitches and investor discussions, it's obvious that you need to be well prepared. So you need to know your pitch, what your company is doing, what is your solution, what is your product or service, how does it change the market, or how does it impact kind of the industry that you're in. And always good to hear how is it fundamentally different than what is out there already. So good to know about the market you're doing and kind of market size and everything about that. Very often I see very similar services or business ideas that are already in the market. So it's sometimes hard to kind of make a distinction. Kind of what's good, what's not. How does this solution differ from the other 10 that I have seen in the past year? So that's why it's important to be very crisp and clear about kind of what's your offering and how do you manage the business. So Peter, I'm doing a monologue here, so maybe some thoughts from you on kind of how do you run a funding campaign, or how do you perceive that?
Yeah.
When you get somebody to knock on your mailbox.
Yeah. I think that maybe kind of like a starting point. I mean, I'm always kind of like coming from kind of like a branding, marketing, perspective, and I think that what is always important, and I mean, Kustaa also like mentioned that, but it's not like there is a shortage of startups, and the same applies that there is not like a shortage of funding. There's actually most markets, there's no shortage of like anything. Actually, there's typically like oversupply of things, so startups or funding, and I think that when you have that, then you really always the starting point should be, I think is that, and what is very important when I talk to startups, that then it's, like, how are you different? Because you always have to keep in mind that there are lots of startups pitching the same investors. And then if you are, like the 10th company that day pitching that, hey, we have this like really cool solution on the blockchain and we're going to tokenize this, tokenize that. And then it's like, okay, yeah, but I already heard 9 other companies that were doing like something similar. So, okay, yeah, couldn't care less. So that's like one thing that you should always like then, even though you think that what you are doing is unique, and maybe it is unique, but then you really need to have to explain why that is the case. So I think that it's really like the initial kind of like obstacle that you need to get rid of is really that, okay, why should I care? Why should any investor care about like what you are doing? How is it different? And different doesn't have to come from, like the product. So I think that this is also, or the service. It's again, it can be that, hey, we have like this fantastic team and we made this and this and this happen. And we have, people here that know the market in Nigeria, if that's, like, but, it could be like, again, that there's something that then makes you stand out. And I think that is where many kind of like pitches fail. And then if we then think about like how can you get better and all of that, I think that the best way to learn is to do. So you should always be, like pitching to, okay, not only investors, but partners, to everybody, like, okay, we are doing this. And then, people will help you make your pitch better. Another thing that I always recommend is then going to various events where people are pitching, just to kind of like observe, because you will get the same experience that many investors, that you will very quickly see, what kind of like piques your interest and what doesn't. So I think it's very, very good to go to events, listen to others, because you will very quickly see that, oh, but hey, I would never invest in that, or hey, that's very interesting. And of course, then it's not that it's just like life, that some people are interested in some areas, it could be like games, or, I couldn't care less about fintech, or the other way around, or, so it can be, you have to find what interests that particular individual at the investor. So I think that is also, like one thing, that it's not just, again, the classic thing that it's not companies that are investing, companies that are, buying things. It's always people. And that's, again, do your kind of like homework and find out what, particular individual is personally kind of like interested in. So that's always like a good thing.
And that applies also to VC companies. So
to everybody.
Companies are actually very different by nature. So some emphasize certain things, some others.
Yeah, but I think also, like, again, maybe like this. What I hear a lot, maybe it's now gotten a bit like less so, but it used to be that like I ask companies, so like, what's your plan? And then it's like, okay, yeah, we're gonna raise like some money here, and then we're gonna go to the Silicon Valley, and then I'm like, okay, so why? And then it's like, yeah, because isn't that like what you are supposed to be doing? And then, yeah, of course, like there's lots of investors in Silicon Valley, and there's lots of places, like that have lots of investors. But when you have lots of investors, guess what? You have lots of startups. So it doesn't like fix the problem. It's not like you're going to be the only startup in Silicon Valley, or I don't know, London or one of these places pitching. So it's kind of like it doesn't address the problem. So we still come back to this, that you have to do your job. So yeah, so that's kind of like one thing that I always really look at, is like the differentiation, basically. That's really kind of like what it comes down to there. Then, of course, looking at what you actually need. So then, if you're working on, I don't know, something around education, then of course you should talk to investors who care about that. Or if it's something in like fintech, or if it's like AI or whatever, I mean, always then like figure out like who the people are who have invested in that kind of solutions before, because then, you know, there's like a likelihood that they have an interest in that area and that they are, you know, looking for more. So that's
especially individual investors, business angels, private people, they very often work in networks. So try to find kind of good networks to plug into. And especially as Peter is saying there, that this kind of special interest education is a good one, but there's many people that are looking for something in a specific field, and trying to find those contacts is always valuable.
Yeah. So I think that's and then I don't know. I mean, we can go through kind of like a lot of fairly obvious things, but I think that another thing that you need to kind of like always know what you're doing, which I guess goes without saying. But again, you know, like why it's good to always be pitching and all that, because then you will also like have people discover like the gaps in your like story and all of that. So before you go and approach like tons of investors, it's kind of like good to do a few dry runs with your friends, you know, like random people that you meet. So that's like always like a good idea. And
Peter, you learned to talk Chinese a little bit when we went to pitch for the tunnel company financing. So I think that was a very extreme example. That
yeah, I thought that was like a good idea to do. I mean, talking about raising 15 billion. So then, you know, like I thought that okay, at least you could do is, you know, learn a bit of Chinese. So I can say that what I Beijing Beijing Da Xue Sila Baga Chinchi the Hanyu, I'm sure what a Hanyu Haibu one may. So yes, spent 8 weeks in Beijing at Beijing Da Beijing Normal University learning Chinese, and that's why my Chinese is not yet perfect, and it's like far from perfect, but already like doing that little effort I think has gone a long way to kind of like show the investors and everybody that, you know, like if somebody goes through the effort of learning a bit of Chinese, then you're probably like doing things a bit seriously, and I think that's always like a good thing to kind of like good thing to do. And again, I mean, that's part of like doing your homework, that you know, if it means that you need to, I don't know, learn some language or learn something about like particular industry or area, then, you know, like go and do that, because as I said before, there are lots of startups pitching for, you know, funding, and you need to kind of like then think about how to kind of like be you know, or raise above like everybody else and get somebody, you know, to invest in you, and not all of those other hundreds or like thousands of companies competing for like that same space. So I think that's important. I
think you touched the topic of the team. So
true.
Very often I look at the team as being one of them. You know, after the business idea, it's the biggest asset basically the company has. So it's a very important criteria. Can the team execute that idea? Are they capable of doing that? So important that you are yourselves. You present kind of your skills and talent in kind of the best possible way, which is very obvious, but important to get that kind of right connection. So that the investor sees the team kind of as it is.
And I think that's, you know, like the classical like saying that you would always invest, you know, like in a team with a, you know, B grade like plan, rather than like a B team with, you know, like the best plan on the, you know, planet, because it really is about the team, and I think that is many times, you know, like reason not to invest in a particular company or project, if, you know, like you know, it's kind of like one guy and a great idea, then ideas are cheap, but it's really about, of course, great ideas, but it's also about great execution and really the credibility that, hey, what have you done before, and why do you think that you can make this happen? So I think this is also a very, very important thing, and that is, again, this kind of like classical like Silicon Valley thinking and all of that. Okay, this guy has failed, like 10 times before, so probably he has learned a lot of lessons, before. So then, that's like a good sign, and I mean, of course, like fail, like many times. Then, like there's a limit to that. But I mean, if you fail a few times, it's not like a bad thing. It's actually indication that you've learned a few things. So I think that is also a very important, kind of like thing, and maybe not so kind of like well accepted or established like here in Finland. So I think that we still have a lot to work on in that part of the culture. But it's actually like normal that when you try new things, more often than not you will fail, and then like you learn, and then you kind of like make it happen. So I think that is fine. So it's good to highlight like experience, and also then this is something that really spent a lot of time like really looking at like with outside like eyes and perspective. Look at your team and look at like what are the gaps. It's a little bit like, okay, if you're going to take over the world, but you have never been outside of the country, then your credibility in like doing international business might not be like super good, and then the credibility that, oh yeah, great, good luck with that. I mean, I've had lots of these pitches that, oh, we're gonna sell this to China because there's lots of Chinese people, and it's a little bit like, and hey, like think about all Chinese people buying these shoes, and then it's like yeah, but like why would they? Or this classical thing that, oh, but we only need like 0.1% of all Chinese people to buy the shoes, and we're gonna sell like truckloads. And it's like, yeah, but why would even 1.1% buy these shoes? It's again, so it's like also those kind of like things that do your homework and don't make these kind of like plans where I think that's actually one important lesson also, that like if you're building your plan, that it's enough if only like a very small percentage of the market buys into like your product. But I mean, if your product or service is very good, why wouldn't everybody buy it? And why would you end up with like some crazy small like market share? So those kind of plans typically don't work out, that it's enough that if only a few people like love our product. But that means if everybody, like most people, then hate it, probably you're not going to be successful. So I think that those kind of plans you shouldn't build, basically.
There's a question in the chat box about how would you like to be approached when asking for an investment, and I kind of take it, how would investors like to be approached when this pandemic is ongoing? And I think this is actually a very, very good time to approach investors, because nobody is basically traveling anywhere, and people are a little bit stuck at home or wherever they are, and kind of very used to video conferencing and remote working at the moment. So I get personally a lot of contacting through social media. LinkedIn is a very good channel. Others as well. So some people actually approach me through Twitter, for example, which is a little bit interesting for investment ideas or pitching companies. But I understand that too. But the same rules still apply. That especially LinkedIn. So if you get a lot of contact in there, how do you make your message very clear and crisp, so that it kind of captures my attention immediately? That's the trick, and don't be too long in explaining what you do, but a couple of sentences about your business, and then are you interested? Can I send you somewhere our slide set, or maybe just putting a link. Very often I don't like to click the links because I don't necessarily know who that person is, so there is a little bit of skepticism there. But it's always polite to maybe ask where can you send the material. Peter, you get a lot of requests too, so how do you handle, or how do you like to be approached?
I mean, again, any channel works, so I don't like.
Pick up the phone.
Pick up the phone, and all the social media, it's fine. So I think that's So but again, then that it's what I said before, that okay, that it's something that kind of like stands out, and I think that's like the most important thing for me, because then there's so much stuff like out there, so that's really important. But then like I think I'm pretty approachable, so I don't have a problem talking with people, and I think that's again also, I mean, you shouldn't be afraid of like talking to people, who, no matter who they are. So I think that's again just like what is kind of like the worst thing that can happen, that they'll say no. But like I think that you should always kind of like and do your homework, look at like who you actually want to get on board, who do you want to have as an investor, as a partner. I think that's like very important. But then like after what you need to get done, then just like go for it. And I think that again, it goes back to this, that also be specific, like what do you want, what do you need. I think this is something that is important, that of course can just have like a cup of coffee and talk about this and that, but in the end like probably you have something that you want to get done. So good to get to the point that okay, we're raising 50k, 100k, 5 million, like that already, like then is good to have a discussion, because then you can like qualify out very quickly.
Yeah, there's actually a follow-on question. What material should be sent at the first contact? And I think the first contact should be very lean. So no need for large Excel sheets or anything like that. But tell what your business is, how it's different, what problem does it solve, and how do you make money. Mm-hmm. Some words about the team. I think that should be enough to get you going. And kind of then the investors will ask for more detail when they get interested. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. Also, the kind of looking from sales perspective, it's always a good sign when you start to talk about money with the investors or with the potential customers. So that's something to keep in mind, that try to drive the conversation in that direction. But the material, depending a little bit on the channel, how you contact somebody, it doesn't have to be very vast material.
And I think that there's of course a big difference depending on kind of like the stage. I mean, now we're mainly talking about like early stage. I think of course then like the kind of like the quality of the material and like everything, then kind of like need to of course like then raise your game, for like later rounds and all that. But I think that like when we're talking about like early stage and all that, at least for me, I think that it's perfectly fine if there's it's kind of like work in progress. So it's also like then opportunity to kind of like work together and kind of like shape that like story and everything. And I think that's from my perspective, the earlier like I'm involved, the better. So it's always a lot more interesting to work on kind of like then shaping the offering, the idea, everything. So I think that's where kind of like personally I think feel that I can have the biggest impact. Yeah, it doesn't have to be, you know, like all defined and all like perfect. I think that it's also about like making it, you know, if not perfect, but making it better. Okay, more questions.
How ready your team has to be before you contact investor? So there's more.
Yeah. So maybe one thing that, I mean, if you just have an idea, then that's not enough. So I think that's also you really need to have like an idea and also an idea about how to make it happen, and more than an idea, so idea like then a team that you can show that, hey, we have this, you know, thing, and here are the people who will make it real. Because you know, if it's just an idea, then it's like, okay, great, but you know, welcome back once you figure out, you know, who will make it happen. Because I mean, if you just have an idea, many people have ideas. I have like ideas like every minute, but you know, it doesn't mean that I might make all of them real or can make all of them real. So I think that you have to have an idea and also the idea of how you will make it real. I think that's yeah.
Maybe to add on that and answer the question also, that sometimes the funding is needed in order to engage and get the right team members on board. So I think the answer is that, you know, you don't have to have the full team ready, but it's always good to have an idea who are the right people to work on the idea. Then there's a question about NDAs. I really don't sign NDAs with startups. VCs very, very seldom do. Sometimes there's somebody who has some patents or something that's very confidential, so might do that, but very often they turn out to be useless. So think about, does your idea really need the NDA? It's because it's very often a little bit of a kind of a nuisance to get the conversation going. And I think it's kind of like a startup world rule of thumb that there's NDAs are basically not used, but of course business secrets, confidentiality is respected all around. So maybe that answers the question. You want to take, Peter, this next one? There's can you talk briefly about how you create relationships and build trust with the teams you invest in? I think that's actually an excellent question.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, I mean, I guess that you could also like say that, okay, like how do you create like trust and relationships like in general? And you know, so it's like a pretty big question. And I think that's yeah, I don't think that there's any kind of like difference here between like, you know, any kind of relationship. So I mean, basically you of course have to then spend time with the people. So that's kind of like, you know, starting point. And then, you know, like it's about like working together. So you build trust with by doing things together through your actions, you know, all of that. And I think that's yeah, I don't have kind of like a better answer there. It's again, you know, yeah, you do what you are saying that you're gonna do, and you know, it's all these like, you know, basic, you know, human behavior. So you know, how do you build trust in general also applies to how to build trust with teams and investors and everything.
Yeah, I think it comes through open, honest, direct conversation, discussion, execution, and it's just the best way of doing things.
Yeah. Then there's question about like that you many times you get like an answer that you're asking too much or too little. I think that if you look at raising,
that's a happy question, because you're talking about money.
Yeah,
so that means that somebody is interested in your case. So
yeah.
It's about right sizing that then.
Yeah, so at least you are getting to kind of like the real questions. But I think that one thing also, that there is no right or wrong answer. Like always when you start talking about valuation and all that, I mean, that is, as Kustaa said, like good indication that then somebody is like interested to invest, so you're getting to kind of like discussing price. So that's good. But of course you need to know again like what you actually need. So I think that many pitches that I see, that then there it's kind of like not really thought through, or maybe like if you're coming from like a high paying corporate job and then we need to raise this money because I need to have this kind of salary and blah blah blah, then like okay, good luck with that. Then it's again you have to be realistic, like and actually then being able to that, okay, hey, I want to raise 500,000 as an example. Okay, why? Then like how are you gonna do, or how are you gonna spend the money on what, and it's not, oh, we're gonna spend it on marketing, and it's like, okay, but like so it's again it's the classical saying that of course you should ask, but like don't expect to get anything. So it's there's nothing wrong with that, but when you ask for investment, also like explain why, how are you going to use the money, what will you be able to deliver, that okay, we invest now 50K here, we will get the first 1,000 users on board, or like whatever it might be, so you have some nice metrics that you can follow and what you will deliver, and then you can like basically track like the performance and all that. I think that's also goes back to the building trust, that that okay, we're going to have 50K and we're going to do the first 1,000 users. Then if you deliver that, hey, trust happens. Then like I said that, oh, now I need 500K and we're going to deliver the next 1,000,000 users. Okay, then if you don't deliver the 1,000,000 users, then okay, can we trust these guys? So anyways, that's like part of it. But then also one kind of like a bit like I don't know if like paradox or conflicting kind of like advice, but I always say that okay, that you should raise as little funding as you can, but then once you are raising the money, get as much as you can. So it's really, I think, a good rule that like then once you get to discussing the valuation, you get there, like then while you're at it, raise as much money as you can, because you will need it. And so I think that's, but of course always balancing then and like how much are you willing to give up of your company, of your business, and it's always then like individual kind of like discussion. And maybe one thing there that you should I wouldn't worry like early on like too much about the valuation and like all of that. It's more about like getting stuff done, and then like nice valuations and things will follow out of like good execution and all of that. So it's again wouldn't worry too much about it like at the early stage.
Yeah, there was a question about experience, and I read that experience in somewhere else, or doing business or running business somewhere else than the startup, and it's always good to highlight all of your experience, regardless whether it's from the same field or if it's from some other business completely. But it's always good to know because it could be relevant for that particular company. And then there's this question. This one is interesting about how to estimate revenues kind of when you don't have anything yet, basically. And it's a science of its own. So if you don't have any clue, then you need to make some assumptions, some estimations, and if you can't make those, then nobody else can. So it's also a signal to the investor, kind of how well do you know your field of expertise, how well do you know the business you're in. And it doesn't really matter if the estimations are far off, if they turn out to be wrong, because you can always adjust the estimations as you learn more about the business. You get your first customer, you get the first 10 customers, and so on. That's always a point where you should revise your business plans and your estimations, because you learn how much effort it takes to get a customer, how much are they willing to pay for your service. And I always look at the businesses like Peter and I are very early stage investors, so we're very often among the first investors or kind of participating in the very first set of rounds. So I often look at companies who have just the slide sets, or they're kind of at the proof of concept phase. But then the next stage is that you get your first customers, so you are proving your business. So you move to the proof of business phase, and only when you have a working product, working service, you have enough paying customers. So let's say you have some tens of customers who are paying on a regular basis for the use of your products and services. Then you can start to look at kind of scaling your business, and that's completely another thing. I can just tell a story about a startup that I actually invested in. This was like 8-9 years ago almost, and we love the technology, and we got like I think 4 investors together. We did all the investment agreements and shareholder agreements and everything, and then we had like our first board meeting with the team, and the team said that we need to recode everything, and it's going to take like 1 year. So that was not a very good start to the relationship, but it kind of delayed everything by 1 year. But we kind of accepted the situation, because also as investors we saw the benefit of doing that. And while the team was recoding, they also did some test sales, so they got a few customers, and then kind of the business started to pick up. So it's a good example that sometimes you need to be agile in how you work things.
Yeah, good, thank you. It was me who was asking it, and this is kind of because I love doing estimations on Excel. I have background in accounting, and I was thinking a bit that it doesn't go too into details, that it's better to have a bit more vague estimation than having a big Excel sheet. And I think you mentioned already earlier that no one is interested on that kind of assumptions, because I understand that also investors are highly intelligent and understandable of that those are just estimations and dreams almost to be achieved. So is it better to go a bit low key and
be as realistic as you can, and investors are not highly intelligent, but they're smart people, so they're not stupid.
Yeah, that's the point, that you can always dream and make those castles in the skies, but yeah. Okay,
yeah,
good.
But I think that it's more about then that we need to I think that's always that you need to know what you're doing, and of course, I mean, you can create and many people can create like amazing like Excel like spreadsheets and all of that, and that's like fine, but then that is no guarantee that good things will happen. So I think that for me, yeah, it's good if you have like done some work and you have like a bit of Excel to back up, like what you're like doing, but it's not like any kind of guarantee that the Excel will become real. So we all know that, and I think that then it's again more important, I think, is really to be able to show that you have a team that can actually make it happen, and then of course having a bit of Excel helps, that you have actually thought through and the numbers. But we all know that like the world, you know, changes. I mean, like again, if you made your plan, you know, let's say Corona, pre-COVID, you know, and before the pandemic, and the pandemic happens, and you are in the business of, I don't know, live music, then everybody understands that you know, no matter what kind of Excel you had, it's now like obsolete and goes out. So then what is important, that do you have a team that can then figure out that, okay, now we are in this pandemic, what are the opportunities for us to pivot and change? And this is again comes back to this, that do you have like the best possible team or the best possible plan? You know, now we see a lot of like fantastic plans, pandemic hits, not so fantastic anymore. This is kind of like a much more important, that you then have like a team that, hey, you know, I will invest in this team because I know that, okay, pandemic or not, they will figure out a way, you know, to make this happen. And I think that is like then really the kind of like entrepreneurs that at least I'm looking for, and the teams I'm looking for, that I know that the team will figure it out. They might not, you know, like then be able to execute on like that plan that they had, but they will come up with a better plan for like the current conditions. So it's really important, again, to have a team that you can trust to deliver, pandemic or not, you know, as one example.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So execution plan over 2 detailed revenue estimations, and emphasis on the team and the traction that they have created earlier. So for example, in our case, we were hit by the pandemic, but we are still here and alive and kicking. We had to adjust. Thanks.
Yeah,
perfect.
Very good. But that's already like good example of exactly what you need to do. And then that's already, you know, like makes you a lot more credible and makes you a lot more investable.
Yeah, there's actually a follow-on question here, which is a good one, that should you inflate your numbers? And absolutely not. There's hockey sticks here and there, and I always smile when I see the hockey stick, and I understand why it's there, but it doesn't really add anything or build credibility in any way. But I think a better approach actually is, and this is what I sometimes ask some teams to do, is to build me a picture, build me a Excel sheet. How does your company look like in 5 years' time? How much are you making revenue? How much are you spending in sales? How much are you spending in marketing? How much in production, and so on? And if you don't have any numbers to share at this point, and you're afraid to make assumptions, then look into the future. How would you like your company to look like? How much do you think you need workforce, and how much are you spending in certain categories and so on? So that might help you also to kind of understand your business better when you kind of look at it from a perspective. Also, it helps to establish credibility. So, have we answered all the questions so far?
Just a quick reminder, we have around 10 minutes to go. There's still a couple of questions you can a little bit more elaborate on. I think you already covered this one a bit, but from Katie Kokkonen is one that what is a good split? What is a good way to split the investment? For example, 30% marketing, 20 sales, 40 R&D, and 10 to salaries. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think 100% marketing, obviously. No, but the thing is, there is no like standard answer, no right or wrong answer. I mean, it's totally
case specific.
Yeah, but then the thing is that, and I think also like the split that you have there, that 30% marketing, 20% sales. That's actually pretty good one, you know, like just in general, because I think that and it's not only in Finland, but it's maybe particularly typical for us here in Finland that marketing sales are kind of like necessary evil that you have to do. And like, why don't these people understand that we have the best product, the best service, so we don't really need to do any marketing or sales. I mean, people should just understand to kind of like buy it, without any marketing. And I think that more often than not, the marketing and sales effort required is totally underestimated. I mean, it's really kind of like something that it's very much needed, and okay, I mean, that's like totally different, like, and like we could spend an hour or two on that topic, but I think that marketing and branding and like everything, it's not like a separate activity that okay, now we built this and okay, let's give it to the marketing guy, they will figure it out. It has to be integrated to the whole thing, and that was what I was like always doing at Rovio and with Angry Birds, always saying that, hey, that everything we do is marketing, or then the other way of looking at it as none of the things we do is actually like marketing, that it's like it's one and the same, and it's part of the fan experience and what you're doing. But again, on this question that there is no standard and no like right or wrong answer, but again, you have to build the case, you have to build the story, and you have to be able to, in a convincing way, explain to investors that, okay, we need 50K or we need 100K, and this is what we will deliver using that funding. So, okay, we will bring on board, 2 of these guys, and we will do this, and we will deliver, the first 1,000, users, customers, fans, whatever. And so all of that. So it's all dependent on your case, your like specific opportunity that you're going after. So just build like a good credible story is kind of like the answer.
I think the storytelling is something that is a good piece of advice, and kind of if you're able to tell the story of your company, where it's going, what's it doing, in a very sort of compiled way, it does capture the attention of the listener. Maria is asking if there are any cliches to avoid, or we would recommend not to do, and I suppose the hockey sticks are one. If you need to show the hockey stick, do it. If you believe in that, that's okay. But I can assure you that every second company has the hockey sticks in their numbers, and I really just skip those slides and then try to find kind of the real answers through conversations. Peter, what's your advice to Maria and all the companies here on the biggest cliches?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like also touched on that, like with this, that okay, if everybody in China would buy one of these, and then you say that okay, but it's actually enough, that if only like a small fraction of like any given market, actually buys into this. I think that is also like it's a little bit like related to the hockey stick and all of that. That hey, that we don't need to be very good to kind of like make lots of money, and let's say that's never really like true. So I think that I would avoid those kind of like stories that hey, this is actually easy because there's like so many people and very few need to buy it. That's kind of like or there are so many companies and only like 1 or 2 companies buy it and we're like rich. So it's like those kind of things are very very they're not credible at all. So I think that it's good to be like brutally honest and be very like realistic, and I think that this kind of like top down that okay, there's 7 billion people on the planet and blah blah blah, and then this is what we will do. I think that it's you also need to have this kind of like bottom up, you know, like grassroots that, okay, we're going to now go and we're going to capture like first 10, 100, 1,000, you know, whatever. So do that. But of course, then you shouldn't forget about showing that, hey, once we're successful with this, the market is very, very big. I mean, that is also like one thing that you shouldn't, you know, like you should be able to show that there is actually like potentially like very, very big upside. I think that like any investor always looking at, okay, hey, you know, if you invest €1, it's gonna return like 10. That's like fantastic. And it's always you're looking for those kind of opportunities. And of course, we know that most of the time it doesn't work out that way. It's not going to return 10 or even like, you know, 2 on your investment or 1. So I think that, but you have to be able to paint the picture that, hey, if we execute flawlessly, this is, you know, like the upside, and it's good to paint, you know, like the bigger opportunity as well. But yeah, avoid these kind of you know, making it look like, okay, we don't really actually need to do too much, and you know, like the market is just there and people will just like buy this. So yeah, be realistic and be brutally honest.
Very good tips. Okay, excellent. Very good questions from the audience as well. And thank you for being so active in this chat. And these kind of insights are the kind of the golden nuggets, I think, that people are looking for. And there was also a question from Suvi Syrjäläinen and about the like what kind of materials needs to be prepared beforehand before contacting and in general having these questions with investors. And I gave Suvi one pointer, and this is also a pointer for everybody. So if you want to go into our Crazy Town website, crazytown.fi/Kuopio, where you can find our matchmaking programs recordings about how to build a pitch. That was an excellent one with Toni Pienonen, who gave some pointers on those material stuff. So if you want to like find out like what kind of decks and what kind of different kind of pitching materials you should have, there's an excellent recording for you to check. And also please remember to check Tommi Pajala's set about growth funding. You can find those both recordings on the website on crazytown.fi/Kuopio. Very good. Okay, Mr. Valtonen and Vesterbacka, any kind of final words? Like, I know there's a lot on the table when talking about these kind of themes as you are here on how to talk into investors. It might feel sometimes that, oh, I have to remember like 150 things. Any kind of summarizations, like what's the simplest advice you could give to these people? What's the giveaway on this take?
Be yourselves and talk to the investors as you talk to anybody else. I think that's a very good starting point.
Yeah, I think that's like a good one. And then just, you know, go out there and do stuff. I mean, I think that's like, again, that it's also I always say this like rule that, you know, like don't think, do think. And what I mean by that you know, like it's a little bit like without preparing the perfect like Excel you know, spreadsheet and like all of that yeah, I mean, of course you can do that, but the world kind of like keeps changing and moving, and pandemics happen and like all kinds of things happen. So yeah, rather than like just like thinking about things, it's much better to go out there, do, you know, pitch, talk to people. They will help make your, you know, pitch, your story, everything better. And I think that's again, of course, you should think and analyze, but I think that typically there's no shortage of that, and it's much more important to kind of like go out there and do things, because when you do things, you learn and you can make things better. So big believer in like doing, and that doing includes, of course, then go and talk to the investors if you need to do that. Don't just like think about it.
Excellent. That's a great ending and giveaway for that. All right. I want to thank everybody for this inspiring morning, and I would like to. Hopefully, everybody will have a great weekend, and yeah, pick up the phone and start dialing, as Kustaa and Peter said. Start making those first contacts. Don't be afraid of that, and we believe that you will be successful. Again, this recording will be shared to you guys afterwards, and you can find it in Crazy Town's webpage. And also, we will be collecting some feedback